Arcadian Vanguard presents the Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Sunday, May 21st, 2023. Good morning. I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with developing news on the relationship between Fox and WWE. WWE stock fell 7.5% last Wednesday with reports that the dip was the result of, quote, panic, end quote, over the company's future prospects with the Fox network, according to Brandon Ross and Rich Greenfield of Lightshed Partners, who often take part in WWE investor calls, and revealed on their podcast that a meeting had recently been held during which Endeavor, the new majority owner of WWE, indicated that Fox may not be a good media partner moving forward. This was partly due to Fox's reported unwillingness to meet the rights renewal amount for SmackDown, said to be 1.75 times the current rights fee. Said Ross on the Lightshed Partners podcast, quote, "This week there was a meeting. This is what triggered everything. There was a meeting that we got tons of calls from investors about, in which apparently the Endeavor team said that Fox was not a good partner and they don't want to renew a deal with them, and that the 1.75 times renewal that's out there is too high. That set off a complete panic," end quote. Greenfield and Ross also noted that WWE was not included at all in Fox's presentations at the recent media industry upfronts in New York City, whereas in previous years, WWE had been a major part of Fox's upfront presence. In the potential absence of Fox, they also theorized that other possible bidders for SmackDown going forward might include Disney ESPN or NBC Universal, which already airs Monday Night Raw and NXT on the USA Network. In ratings news, overnight figures for last Friday night's SmackDown indicate a total audience of 2.049 million viewers on Fox, a slight drop from the previous week's overnight total of 2.068 million according to Spoiler TV. The overnight rating in the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic was .50, also down slightly from the previous week's episode. Full ratings figures for SmackDown are expected later this week. In WWE news, Roman Reigns will be headed to Mexico for the first time since 2019, with the company announcing that the WWE Universal Champion will be a part of its show in Mexico City on July 22nd. A press release issued Friday by WWE touted Reigns' appearance for Arena Ciudad Mexico City on July 22nd, although it was not stated if Reigns would be appearing the next night when the company heads to Monterrey. Reigns last appeared in Mexico on November 30th, 2019, defeating King Corbin. Reigns was originally announced for a house show in Fayetteville, North Carolina last night, but WWE sent out a release on Wednesday stating Reigns would not be there, blamed it on a mix-up with promotional materials, and was offering refunds. In independent wrestling news, Game Changer Wrestling ran its The Way I Am event Saturday night at Harpo's Theater in Detroit, Michigan. Masha Slamovich retained the GCW World Championship, winning a five-way match over Lufisto, Maki Ito, Allison Kay, and Shazza McKenzie, choking out McKenzie. After the match, Slamovich was stared down by Blake Christian, who had defeated Effie earlier in the night. In other title matches on the show, the East-West Express team of Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne defeated Los Macizos and the Motor City Machine Guns in a three-way dance to retain the GCW World Tag Team Championship. And Rina Yamashita also retained the GCW Ultra-Violent Championship, defeating Jimmy Lloyd. And before we get to our final story today, we have one correction from yesterday's newscast. When giving the results of last night's SmackDown on Fox, I mistakenly noted the building WWE was running as the Thompson Bowling Arena in Columbia, South Carolina, when it was actually the Colonial Life Arena, home of the South Carolina University Gamecocks. The Thompson Bowling Arena is a multi-purpose arena located on the campus of the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, about 260 miles northwest of Columbia, and they tout themselves as the third largest on-campus basketball arena in the country. I apologize for the error. Our final report today will contain some spoilers for upcoming AAA television. These will not be full results, but only the newsworthy items that occurred during these tapings. If you wish to not hear any of these spoilers, we'll give you a moment to make your decision, and please remember to follow us across all of our forms of social media. During Saturday's AAA show at the Palacio del Arte in Morelia, Michoacan, the company held a match to determine new World Tag Team Champions. In a three-way match, Aries and Commander defeated the teams of Octagon Jr. and Ray Horace and Jack Evans and Mystices to win the championship. Last December 28th, Dragon Lee and Dralistico had defeated FTR to win the titles, but immediately vacated them when Dragon Lee announced he had signed with WWE. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.